Welcome, everyone. We are the Good Doctors of Abbey Research. I am Dr. Erin Hinson, the Vice President of Research Development, and I'm joined by my esteemed colleague, Dr. Kristen Donnelly, who is our Executive Vice President. For those of you who don't already know us, Abbey Research is a bespoke research consultancy firm that helps companies investigate their culture and individuals lead with intention. So what does that mean, really? It means that we use our research expertise, we are both doctors in social science, to help solve any people-focused puzzle that might be happening at your company. Have a high turnover rate? We can help. Dealing with a toxic corporate culture? We're your gals. We're here to help you get to the heart of what's holding you or your company back and help devise solutions. We both received our PhDs from Queen's University Belfast across the Atlantic Ocean in Northern Ireland. I graduated in 2017 with a degree in history and anthropology, and Kristen graduated in 2015 with a degree in sociology. So what this means is that we study people and cultures for a living, and with the start of Abbey Research, we saw an opportunity to take our academic skills and apply them to business-oriented issues.
Right. And so because we met when we were doing postgraduate degrees and we walked each other through this decision to leave the Ivory Tower, it's something that we're both pretty passionate about exploring. So I left first because, like Erin said, I finished my PhD a little bit ahead of her. And then I emigrated back to the United States to work with my family company, which is a whole other kettle of fish and a pretty fun story. But that led to starting Abbey Research. And as I started to interact more and more with businesses, I realized that a lot of folks selling research had absolutely no qualifications to do so. Whereas I had 3 postgraduate degrees in it. And so I knew I could serve the market better than many of the companies out there. Because not only did I have these postgraduate degrees in this training, but I've been part of a family business since I was 7. And have been pretty much trained and groomed to have a business brain. So I knew I could help. So I hung a shingle and I started offering deep dive research projects into company culture.
And having known Kristen throughout all of our PhD experience, I was involved with her starting up Abbey Research, even as a sounding board for ideas. And so I was always interested in helping Kristen with the company. So when I finished my PhD and moved back to America, I began looking for work. And at this stage, I already knew, exactly like Kristen, that I wanted to look for work outside of the academic world. Not only was I well aware of the reality of the academic job market, having watched countless of our friends graduate with these high-level degrees and not be able to secure anything at all, or only temporary contracts or fellowships. And I felt that also the academy's really limited engagement with non-academics was damaging what research was from our perspective. So I started to look for work outside of that. Kristen brought me on to help do freelance work for a couple of months. And then we started talking about really joining forces and using our expertise to further Abbey's work. So I joined full-time in 2017, and I work in a support capacity to grow our network and build our content and help serve our clients the best way that we can.
Absolutely. And I mean, we could go on and on about how that process works and how we both use our unique, even though we both have PhDs in social science, we did them differently. Erin's has a lot more expertise with archives and book research, and she did interviews, whereas I do a lot more ethnography and cultural analysis in larger pieces and a lot less physical artifacts and things like that. So even just our academic expertises melded and complemented each other really, really well. And we knew it would help companies because companies have both actual artifacts in a way, and they have huge cultures. And so we're able to really bring a lot of different things. So we've had a lot of fun so far. But like Erin said, we are intentionally out of higher education, and we've got a few thoughts about that. And that's really why we're talking to you today. So we've noticed 2 categories of issues that we want to address. First, PhD students are not being given examples of how to use their skills outside of the academy. Neither are master's students, but this is particularly pertinent to PhD students because I feel like a lot of us are kind of sold the myth that PhDs are only to prepare you for professorships. And a lot of PhDs are certainly designed that way, but we all know there's just not the professorships. And I think there's a real shift happening in higher ed, for better and for worse. And we are currently, I don't think, and neither does Erin, preparing our PhD students for that shift. And the second is that there are a whole lot of judgment statements on social media about real academics versus not real academics, as though people can be real and fake, and it's stressing us out.
Yeah, exactly. And Kristen is spot on with that. We've had a lot of discussions about this, certainly through our PhD experience and coming out the other side as well. And we noticed this huge gap, first of all, to Kristen's first point, in the difference between expectations and preparation. So like Kristen said, postgraduate students, particularly PhD students, but master's students as well, are led to expect a faculty position. It is the discourse that exists in academia, it is the expectation, and all of the stories that we're told are you go to school, you get your PhD, you find a teaching position, you become that stuffy old professor, you know, Lupin in his office with all his intricates. Had to get a Harry Potter reference in there, thanks. But that's what we're told to believe, that we're all going to be Professor Dumbledore, but really there aren't any teaching positions open at Hogwarts or any other school of witchcraft and wizardry. And so that's one of the biggest problems, is that there is no training for what happens when there isn't a job. And there is no training to talk about your research skills, which are broad, to look for work outside of academia. And so we're left in this position where we can't find a job in the field that we were ostensibly trained for, but we also don't know how to talk about our skills in a way that makes them accessible to people that don't have an academic background. So we really want to open this door through our work at Abbey Research to talk about being flexible about how we talk about research and our skills that we develop. Building a capacity within postgraduates to talk about skills and jobs and professions once they graduate that are outside of that very narrow framework. And to Kristen's second point, we are extraordinarily passionate about dispelling the myth that people with academic qualifications who do not hold academic posts are not allowed to be or are not capable of participating in academic conversations. That was a lot of academics in one sentence. Basically what it means is once you're outside the ivory tower, you're not really welcome. Even though we have the same degree, we have the same qualifications. So we are very intentional about making opportunities for research dissemination. So getting our research out there. Kristen and I participate in a lot of conversations online in all of our fields. We are continuously working at promoting our research and going to conferences all over the world in order to engage in these spaces. But we're advocating for people as well, because we have to be able to do this without prejudice. We have to make these spaces available and make them accessible to people, even if they choose to leave or cannot find work in academia.
Yeah.
So we wanted to use this video to start a more public conversation. If you're watching this video, you'll get access to a free 2-page PDF that includes 3 of our tips for translating your academic research skills into non-academic fields. And we really believe that the change has to start with us. Kristen and I both don't think that universities are doing enough, institutions are doing enough. So it has to start with us in terms of recognizing that we need to communicate these differently.
Mm-hmm. In fact, we're going to be part of a series of panels at this year's American Sociological Association conference talking about taking social science outside of the academy and what it looks like. And we're aware of some of the pushbacks we're going to get. And one of the ways that we kind of straddle these two areas, the public scholarship and what I refer to as private scholarship in the academic loophole, where all you do is you do research to further your academic thing, publish it only for other academics, absolutely nobody else gets to see it, and then we just keep going. You don't even make money off of your own labor, and the culture at large doesn't benefit from your training and your brilliance. That, as a business owner, infuriates me. As a citizen of the world, it infuriates me, because I have sat in rooms with some of the most brilliant people that could really, really help, for instance, parents understand how to do social media stuff with their kids, because it could help, these academics could help people understand what belonging looks like to teenagers. But because these academics need to keep their jobs, they don't have time to engage with the public, because we've created jobs that only engage with the academic loophole, like time suck. And one of the ways that we do that is conferences. And we claim that academic conferences are a huge part of your academic career. We totally agree. Academic conferences are both infuriating and wonderful. They're draining and energizing. And we've gone to a ton. This year, I think between the two of us, we're already signed up for 5. And we're speaking at them and we're engaging with them. And that's great. In order to pay the full registration cost for all 5 of those, we luckily have a business behind us that gets to do that. Yeah. When we were PhD students, we certainly didn't. And we scraped and held and ate beans for weeks, sometimes, to afford some of these things. Additionally, we are both actively involved in conversations that take place in Northern Ireland. And that is, for those who struggle with geography, across an ocean from where both of us now live.
Quite a long flight.
But so therefore it's cost prohibitive for us to often interact with the stuff that we dedicated 4 to 5 to 6 to 10 years of our lives talking about. And both of us happen to be some of the only people asking the specific questions that we are asking. But all of the conferences in the academy take place in the room where it happens. If you're not in the room, it doesn't matter. And yet, we're talking to you. I'm sitting in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. Aaron is sitting in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. You are sitting wherever the heck you are. And we are all learning together. And the academy has not at all picked up on the fact that, like, God gave us technology to make things work better. And so one of the things that we're calling for as academics, thank you very much, not any other qualifier, is for academic conversations to move towards technologically advanced spaces. There should be digital summits instead of regular summits. This would cut down on the cost prohibitive. We just heard of a conference that is taking place. It is €250 for 4 days.
It's taking place in Ireland, so you have to get to Ireland, which is very expensive.
And to a city with no airport. So you have to then transport yourself from one of the airports to the city.
Yeah, €250. So that's roughly what, $400?
Yeah, like $350 around these days. Like $350, $400. Yep.
For a conference registration fee.
Mm-hmm. And we all know that doesn't include food.
No.
Conference registration is just your ability to wear a badge and sit in a room.
Yeah, it does not include accommodation or food.
Nope.
No.
So why don't we throw this on a digital summit? Why don't we all throw it on a Zoom room, and the discussion afterwards, the panel afterwards, can take place with chats. Moderators can answer questions and help people out. There are very simple ways to do this. But because the academy is nothing if not entrenched in its own history and its own traditions, we're afraid that it's not ever going to advance, and instead it's going to wither. Additionally, there are a lot of people who are outside of the academy who would love to hear some of these talks, and they would love to engage with some of this knowledge, and they have knowledge that the academy needs to engage with. Pragmatic, in the trenches practitioners need to be part of so many of our academic conversations, and we're not letting them be. So everything in this conversation could be better. And as our company vision, we are about helping organizations investigate their culture and grow past their current blockades. And this fear of digital engagement is a huge academic blockade. So we're going to spend this year trying to figure out how we could even host an academic digital summit. We don't know if we have the tech. We're tiny, and we're excited to engage with the idea. If nothing else, we're certainly going to be using this video and other things to poke universities, to tell them to invite keynotes to be on Skype instead of having to spend the money to fly somewhere. Your engagement with a question or knowledge should not be limited by your geographical location, nor your ability to attend an institution of higher education.
Yeah, nor your economic viability.
Nor your economic viability. So we call for that. We call for the democratization of knowledge. in a way that we figured out how to do for elementary schools about 100 years ago. And we've never seemed to bother to do with higher education. So we're adding our voice to the many voices on Twitter who are calling for it. And we're going to see if we can help pragmatically make it work.
That's right. And we are also calling for the democratization of training as well, and to make the training more equitable, and to realize within the academy, we need the academy to realize the reality of the job situation, and to take responsibility for helping prepare these people who are giving them this work, often paying for it themselves and taking out exorbitant student loans, to the work that then is owned effectively by the university. They need to prepare these people to enter the job force as well. So we'll be having those conversations. We're continuing to do so, and we're hoping to, as Kristen said, poke that bear from that perspective throughout the year as well. And we'll be looking to engage with academic spaces and institutions in order to have these conversations and ask these really important questions.
In the meantime, if you are a PhD student who is tearing your hair out and chewing Tums because the job market is so awful, we're here, and we'd love to talk and help you figure out and bounce and help you think through your research skills. There will be, if you get the PDF, there's ways to get a hold of us, and we are always available to be bouncing partners in the idea of thought. If you are somebody who is in charge of academic conferences listening to this, we would love to talk to you about how we can help make it more equitable, and how things like using technology means that there's also more diversity at the table. And you can make sure that there's a diversity of ideas that aren't limited by economic viability or geographical location. In the meantime, we hope that you are in love with whatever you're learning right now. We hope that your research lights you up from the inside, and that you know to the core of your being that it will make this world a better place, because you've had the bravery and the tenacity to ask this question. We can't wait to hear about it, and we can't wait to see where you go from here. So we'll be back soon with another rant and an update on some of our efforts. In the meantime, stay brave. We'll talk to you soon. Bye.